So Karma Yoga goes hand in hand with Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. And we should look upon spiritual work as a form of worship. Swami Vivekananda made this statement: love, truth, and unselfishness form our highest ideal because in them lies such a manifestation of power. And this is actually quite apparent when you look at the lives of some of the great saints throughout history. It wasn't just their work. They had something else. They had an aura about them. They had a powerful presence because they had an unswerving belief in God and a deep faith in the cause they were working for. Now, humanitarian work is essential in these days. Now, please do not get me wrong. And you don't have to have a belief in God in order to do humanitarian work. And in fact, someone who works in an altruistic world, in an altruistic way, will get an opening of their consciousness. They will, at some point, receive a higher inspiration, which will lead them in the spiritual direction. But to your humanitarian work, if you add a deep spiritual love, a real feeling of oneness, a deeper understanding and wisdom, your aura will be filled with light. This unselfish love that you feel, that wells from your heart, will bring a great healing presence to all those around you. And people will be aware of this. Look at Mother Teresa of Calcutta. What did she do that was so different from many other humanitarian workers? Well, she had those three ingredients: love, truth, and unselfishness. People like her worked on more than just the physical plane, and this is why their influence was so great. They kindled a light in the ethers, in the mind belt around the earth. And this brought about an internal change within them. It opened up their higher centers. It brought a transmutation of the more basic energies. It gave them a feeling of deep spiritual happiness, inner peace, even in the midst of all the clatter. And it gave them greater wisdom, a real purpose to their life, to their work. And they had all the states. They experienced all the states that one associates with higher spiritual development. And this would be paving the way for a rise of the power of Kundalini. See, that's another approach altogether. So how do we accomplish this? After all, we are ordinary people, bound by our karmic pattern, with our different degrees of selfishness and awareness, living in a world which is full of programming in self-motivation. I mean, this is what people are looking for today when they go into the bookshops. How to be more successful in this, that, and the other, how to have power over other people, how to earn more money, how to be more successful in your love life. I can go on with that list. But we can apply this idea of motivation in the context of karma yoga by changing our motivation. We can live in the bustling city, but not be a part of it. We're performing intense activity and experience inner peace. That is the secret of karma yoga. We have to learn to nurture the right motive, focus on a greater spiritual awareness, the purpose of our life. And this will bring to us greater wisdom and spiritual insights. And then we'll develop the feeling of true unselfish love, which will bring about a transmutation of selfishness and selfish motive. And when we can truly accomplish this, all our spiritual powers will become concentrated, and this will unlock the great knowledge within. This is what will bring about the true state of enlightenment in these days. So what is enlightenment? It's a state of expanded consciousness which is only brought about by a full rise of Kundalini. It is not some vague psychic state. It's not a power that can be awakened in 6 easy steps. Now, yes, Kundalini is operative in all of us to a greater or lesser degree, otherwise we wouldn't even be alive. But we have to have full control over all our basic aspects, which I outlined earlier. We have to have control over all our thoughts. We have to have concentration, what the yogis called one-pointedness of mind. I mean, for example, in the space of 1 minute, you think you're concentrating on something, and if we're really honest, in the space of 1 minute, we might have thought, oh God, did I put the dinner in the oven? What have I done with my bus pass? Oh, I meant to phone so-and-so tonight when I get home. And the thought has come and gone before you even know it. Well, you have to dispel all that. You have to be able to focus properly. So are you really ready for raising the Kundalini? If you take into consideration all the points that I've just made, we've got to really start looking within. We have to develop self-honesty, but realize where we have to go from there. There are shortcuts, yes, but they are dangerous. Because if Kundalini is raised, and occasionally one does hear of a spontaneous rise of Kundalini, it could, as in the case of the famous Gopi Krishna, flow up through the wrong channels. And then it can cause illness, mental problems. I do recommend, if you ever come across this book, Kundalini, it's an example of someone who practiced meditation for 17 years, but he led an ordinary life. He didn't practice any of the other things that I outlined. And he did get a spontaneous rise of Kundalini, and it took him several years to get this under control, and eventually he did. And a wonderful experience he had too, and he did relate this in the book that he published. Now, when the power of Kundalini is raised in full through each chakra, through the spine, the function of each chakra is enhanced hundreds or thousands of times. Now, I think you know what I'm going to say next. Most people would not be able to raise it above the sex center. I mean, we're adults. You have to really have control, and this is why I say it again, the yogis were so strict upon our control of thought and desires in all forms. Because if you can raise it higher through complete control, then that psychic center becomes dormant and it opens up the next one. And by the time you can raise the power of Kundalini up to the heart center, then you'll have the true expression of love in a way that you could not imagine. You'll become a powerhouse for the highest manifestation of universal love, and you will want to radiate this love to all. At that point, you will be the second Buddha. So raising the power of Kundalini is the path to freedom. But we have to place ourselves in a karmic position before we will be able to raise this mystic power. So since we are far more responsible today for what happens in the world, then the best thing we can do is to help the whole. It is said that a bird flapping its wings in England affects the wind currents of South America. It may be infinitesimal, but it is so. So what then do our thoughts do? What impact do all our thoughts globally have on the mind belt around the earth from time immemorial? I mean, if we think we are guilty of polluting the earth, then we are far more guilty of polluting the mind belt with some of the dreadful thoughts that are hanging around there, and they don't disappear. You see, most people are not aware of their thought processes. They think that thoughts don't count. Oh, well, I can smile nicely, walk into a room and really say, God, I really despise that person. And they think it won't have any impact. Well, it will. All thoughts have an energy, and they affect not only ourselves, but those around us, for better or for worse. And Dr. King has stated categorically that the greatest crisis in our world today is the spiritual energy crisis.